many times have you heard God loves you? How many times have you heard Jesus loves you? Here we are in New Orleans, 1998, serving God. The day I am concerned what people say about me is the day I hang my megaphone up. Heaven or hell when you die, believe in Jesus Christ. Stop playing games with God. You've been playing games with God way too long. I don't know why you don't take the best deal in town. Jesus Christ dying for you, bleeding for you, rose from the dead for you, and you walk away like nothing.
Okay, so I have here with me David Grisham waiting for Nathaniel to pop on with us. I don't know if he's having issues or not. I sent him the link. Dave, go ahead and say something so I can make sure you can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, delay. There's a delay. I don't know what's going on with this software, but there's a delay. But anyway, so again, we're just waiting on Nathaniel to come on. And for those of you who don't know who Nathaniel is Artur's son, and the reason, we were going to have him on here is because, I don't know if you read or not, but Nathaniel got himself in a little bit of trouble. He was at the European Union and he gave a speech, and in that speech, he was calling Justin Trudeau a modern-day Caligula. And when he went back to Canada as he entered the country, they told him they had a warrant for his arrest. And then, of course, when he got back to his province the warrant was just magically gone, so they never had one. And he basically called them liars because, you wouldn't get a warrant. They check for warrants when you come into the country, and there was no warrant. They wouldn't just make one up. So, this is fascism, right? Don't dare criticize your leaders, or else you're going to be marked and arrested and jailed for it. And so that's what we're waiting on here. I'll send another email, make sure everything's okay. Let's see.
I wonder if they were firing a shot across his bow. Little warning. Well, he goes overseas, starts talking about Justin Trudeau, and they issue this warrant, and then they withdraw it. Like, hey, maybe you should shut up.
Well, you would think. You would think, though, that given the fact who his dad is and all the news coverage his dad had, that they would, not do that.
Think.
So anyway, I just emailed him now, and I asked him, "Hey, is everything okay?" Because he told me I talked to him before at 5:30. Is it okay if I can do 30 minutes? Yeah, he said he can only do 30 minutes, so. Let me double check over here, see where he is. I don't see him yet. So, but Dave, if you want to, while we're waiting for Nathaniel, this is the first time you've been on Ruben's channel.
It is. Absolutely is. So, I can tell you a bit about Artur, and when me and Jesse Morrell visited his house in Calgary earlier this year.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we arrived at his house. Of course, now when we crossed over the border into the country, we both got kind of pulled aside and grilled for about 3 hours for us to get across the border, because they were really concerned about us street preachers. Absolutely. And we didn't tell them, though, that we were going to go see Artur, because we know he was kind of a hot item, And when we met him at his house, he was wearing an ankle bracelet because he was basically under house arrest from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. every day. he'd already been through the trial for which we now found out that he was convicted, and and he was just waiting for his sentencing at that point. And we had dinner with him that night in his house, and then we couldn't. It was a Wednesday night, so they were having a Wednesday night church service, and his brother David was going to lead that. And so we went to the church service, but Artur couldn't go because he was under house arrest. And so we went to his church, and his brother allowed us both to speak for about 30 minutes each. So that was a great honor to get to preach at his church for about 30 minutes. And that was really fun. But, Artur called, he didn't call Justin Trudeau he didn't call him the modern day Caligula. His word for him his nickname is the little potato. That's what he likes to call him. He's just a little potato. He's not even a big potato.
So why don't you tell everybody who Caligula is, just in case?
Well, Caligula was a Roman emperor who was basically, he was a tyrant, but he was also extremely sexually perverted. And he was known for having extravagant orgies, I guess, and things like that. But he was a really nasty guy in more ways than one. That's what I remember studying. It's been a long time since I've read anything about Caligula, but that's what I remember.
I believe he was also the one. I'm trying to remember my history here. I think Caligula is the one that wanted to do like the sex change stuff on himself. I think
the guy was a pervert all the way around.
Weren't all these emperors perverts?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, when you had Nero, who would take Christians and stick them up on poles and light them on fire and use them for basically torches to provide light for his parties. Yeah, he was a pervert too.
Huh. So I'm not hearing back from Nathaniel yet. I wonder what's going on.
Who knows? In Canada, he could be in jail.
I did talk to him at 5:30, and Nathaniel, like his dad, is usually pretty. So unless something happened,
Canada is after Christians really hard.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that is a lot of people that are watching us might think, well, that's Canada, that's not America. Forgetting that I got a restraining order against me for posting Bible verses. And Dave, actually, Dave, you were there for that. And be careful what you say, because we are live and you're with me right now. So be careful what you say about that.
Don't say specific names.
No, don't do that.
I'm not.
Don't do that. But what I'm saying is that, we think that stuff like this happens in other countries, that, if you criticize your leaders, you're going to warrant for your arrest. But in America, did you know they weaponized the IRS? Like the IRS just got a whole bunch of new guns and stuff like that. Why would they do that in America?
I think they're planning on using them.
Right. Well, I mean, Dave, when you buy a gun, do you buy it just to put on your wall and keep it there to look at?
Yeah. Not the government. They buy them for a reason. They don't buy them just to collect them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do you buy a gun just to collect it, or do you buy it?
I buy them.
One day you may have to use it.
May have to use it one day, and I think that's exactly what they're doing too. Only I do it just in case. Right. I think they're doing it because they're planning it.
And let's not forget that the IRS did go after the Tea Party.
That's correct. They absolutely did. I remember when that happened. And you got to remember that the government has gone after a lot of these January 6ers. Some of them who were not even in the Capitol. They said they're going to make another 1,000 or so arrests of people who maybe didn't even go inside the Capitol at all. So they're going to hunt these people down, and we got people sitting in jail to this day that still haven't gone to trial. And we're half the Biden administration.
Now in America, that's illegal. Being detained without a trial, we have right to speedy trial, but yet, we have Americans that are having their rights violated, and Dave, we're talking about it here, waiting on Nathaniel, but what's being done about it in this country? I mean, a lot of people talk about how it's illegal, it shouldn't be done, but nobody's doing anything about it. Who does that remind you of? Who does it remind you of? Talk, 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 but do nothing.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah,
does
it
it
reminds me
remind
of
you of?
the church. The
Are
church,
you saying the church doesn't do anything?
for the most part, no, they don't do anything. They talk a lot. They pray a lot. They say, well, we're going to pray about that, and they're going to have another bake sale for the youth group, but they're not going to get out there and act involved. That's generally because they're only concerned about butts in the pews and money in the plates, and that's pretty much what the modern American church is all about.
Sounds
It's
like
all about numbers. It's all about money. It's a social club that earns people a good living, and that's really what a lot of it's about.
Sounds like a home event. Butts in the pews and money in the plate.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Where is Nathaniel? I know he's a
I don't
busy
know.
kid. I know he's not really a
It's not-
kid anymore, but he's a kid to us.
Yeah, everybody's a kid to us. I'm 62, so anybody below 50 is a kid to me, sort of.
I mean, like you said, in Canada, anything can happen. You never know.
Yeah, it's true.
Because usually even email gets back to me. He's not even getting back to me. I sent him twice. I said, this is a good email for that. Is it okay if I can only do 30 minutes? I said, yeah.
Yeah, he may have something going.
Hey, it's possible he could be in jail right now. The police could be in his house. They harass Artur and them all the time.
Yeah, you never know when you're going to get raided in Canada for being a Christian, right?
Hey,
They're going to
I got
raid
sort
your-
of raided. I got sort of raided here.
You had the FBI come to your house.
I did, and we thought they were going to come to your house next.
When they come to my house, they'll come in the black outfits and kick down the door, more than likely.
Well, they didn't come in black outfits. They came. It was the Joint Terrorism Task Force that came to my house.
Yeah.
So Lori asked, Dave, can you wait? Let me move this. I don't think people need that. They know who we are. Can you see that question or no?
Not really, probably. Hang on a second.
See, I got those new contacts in. I don't need reading glasses anymore.
It's under the bar, and I got a little bar covering it. So no, I can't see that question. What does it say?
It says, "Is that what is meant by faith without works is dead?"
Faith without works is dead. What that statement means, faith without works is dead, is that works goes along with the process of sanctification. And so everybody's given a certain measure of faith. And by that faith, you're given a certain measure of belief. And through that belief, you have a certain measure of obedience. And through that obedience, you do a certain measure of works. And it says in James that your works perfect your faith. So therefore, it goes back to faith and gives you an increase in faith, gives you an increase in belief, and then an increase in obedience and an increase in works. And the whole thing starts over again. So if you don't do the works, you don't get your faith increased. If your faith stays weak, eventually it dies.
Brandon Austin said, "David, I thought you were 60."
I'm 62.
Whoa. That's not even old. I don't know what. Do you know who Brandon Austin is?
I'll be 63 in September.
Do you know who that is?
And an increase.
Who that person is? The Brandon Austin.
I think the name sounds familiar.
Let's see. I'm looking comment. There's some comments that aren't coming up in here that I can't see. I don't know. Still don't see any Nathaniel. So let's see. When Ruben and I would do this, when a guest couldn't come on, what would we do? I think Ruben would just go ahead and ad lib. But since we have you as a guest on here for now, but Dave will probably be more of a regular soon. Dave, before again, as it relates to what's going on with Nathaniel, and I know in Canada, why don't you give a little lesson on fascism and the Bible and real quick, what Christians are going through, what they're going to be going through. I mean, you're kind of the guest spot right now until Nathaniel comes on.
Well, what we have going on in fascism in America is like, for instance, the censorship that you see on Twitter and Facebook and all these kinds of places, that's a form of fascism. When you have the government, there's a big controversy right now of the government using the social media platforms to censor people. That is the very definition of fascism. Fascism is when the government and private industry partner together to accomplish the government's goals. And that is fascism, when you blend government and private industry together, and you get the private industry becomes part of the enforcement arm of the government. That is fascism. Communism is when the government just takes over and there is no private industry. But fascism is a blending of the government with private industry. And that's what we are seeing in America. So if you're Antifa out there, what you ought to be doing is standing against Joe Biden, because his Justice Department and his FBI have been using social media platforms to censor political opposition in the United States. And that is the very epitome of fascism.
Did Ruben's other channels get closed down? Ruben's Desk and Bible Believers. I don't know of any other channels that Ruben had other than this one. I know he had a Bible Believers channel, but it got changed and now it's changed back. But Ruben didn't really have anything to, he wasn't doing anything on that channel. Everything was done on this channel here, the Ruben Israel channel.
Yeah, that channel, Bible Believers, was given to John Williams. And John changed the name to something else. I don't remember what it was. And now he's changed it back, I believe, to Bible Believers. So they do Bible Believers YouTube channel.
Right.
That they will be using for Bible Believers.
Right.
And so, yeah.
And this isn't, again, so I know there's a lot of questions, and I didn't want to bring this stuff on Ruben's channel, but, Ruben's channel, we're still going to try to do it. Obviously things can't be done the way Ruben did it without him. It's just impossible. And, you guys remember when Rush Limbaugh had his show, when Rush Limbaugh had passed away, they tried to air all his old stuff and they tried to kind of continue it, and it failed miserably. Well, today, Google just made a new policy update where if it's a YouTube channel, Gmail account, Google Drive, any Google account you may have, if you don't use it, and I forget what the specified time is, it's going to be deleted. So number one is we planned on continuing to use it anyway, because, Ruben, when he wasn't here, well, he said when he's not here, he trusts me with it. And anytime I've ever asked Ruben, hey, can I post this or do that? He said, sure, go ahead, brother. I trust you. But part of what David and I want to do is we want to make sure that Ruben, and again, God doesn't care about Ruben's legacy, and Ruben didn't care about Ruben's legacy either. I care about it, and David cares about it. We care about it more than Ruben cared about it. Ruben, he could care less about his name. He could care less about his legacy. Ruben could care less, but all Ruben cared about, at least from what my conversation with him were, number one is making sure that the things that we're taught, we use them. And number two, that we do not, waste the opportunities that he fought for as far as free speech goes. He fought for those sidewalks, and his thing is just make sure we continue using them. So we're gonna continue in that, if you will. Now, again, we're waiting to see what the Lord directs us as far as this particular channel goes, because even then, looking at the intro without Ruben coming on, it's really weird for me. I don't know what it is for you, Dave. You watch Ruben's show. What is it looking at it from that point of view, when knowing that Ruben's not going to pop up?
It was kind of weird to see that, all those Ruben's stuff, and then Ruben's not here anymore. That is kind of weird. Right. It would kind of bothered me a little bit, but there's nothing we can do about it at this point, other than, but like you were saying a second ago about his legacy, it's really about the lessons learned. He had 40 years of street preaching experience, and we don't want that to go to waste. Right. We don't want, it's not that we're trying to protect his legacy and we're placing so much value on that over Jesus or anything like that. It's just that Reuben broke a lot of ground, and we don't want to have to go break up that ground again. We don't want to
Right.
have to fight the same fight on the same sidewalks for free speech that he fought already. We
Right.
just need to move forward, but we have to remember what he did in the past so that we don't, because I'm sure we all make mistakes out on the streets. We all learn the hard way sometimes
Right.
about certain things, how to deal with police, how to handle lawsuits, how to
Speak for yourself. I do everything right.
how to deal with that, hecklers and the whole thing. But Reuben learned all that stuff over 40 years, and we could avoid a lot of the mistakes by watching his stuff and listening to his teachings and reading his blog. And so we want to preserve the legacy to preserve the lessons learned. That's what we really want to do. We want to make sure that it is a training resource for future street preachers from now on.
There he is. Hold on. There he is. Let me get Nathaniel on here. He's here.
Okay.
And so let me just double check here. All right, Nathaniel, give me 1 second while I get you on here. So Dave, me, Nathaniel. So
My phone's.
Dave.
Do you guys have a charger? My phone's gonna die.
There he is.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Go ahead, brother. It's all yours for. You know what? I'm going to step out and just let you do this thing. You said you have 30. You only had about 30 minutes, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Go ahead, brother. The floor is all yours.
Yeah. So, is there anything you want to talk about first? Actually, first of all, I'd like to send my condolences because obviously Reuben Israel was a close friend of our families. Me and my mom saw him last summer. We went to dinner with him, and he's been a dear brother to our family for many, many years. So I just wanted to send my condolences first and foremost for that.
Yeah, I remember calling your dad when it happened, and your dad was just silent. He didn't even know what to say.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, it was all of us.
Yep. But no, what I wanted to do is because of what happened to you. I mean, we've all read the story, what happened, obviously, in Fox News, and I kind of wanted you, like with your dad, to share what happened to you, especially with the whole warrant thing. I think that's it's a funny story. So, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of like what your dad would do, when he was on to tell what happened, and a warning for us as Americans. Because you're up to the north, if it happened up there, it's not far from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was invited to the European Parliament to speak on my dad's behalf because he was actually invited for a citizens' initiative that had to do with the WHO and other globalist organizations infiltrating sovereign countries. And the talk was about the risks of having our rights and freedoms stripped away in the name of health. And of course, my dad knows first and foremost the consequences of that. So he was invited, but because of his house arrest situation, he could not attend. So I went in instead. There were several members of European Parliament in attendance, and it was honestly a great opportunity to get the story out there because it's a global stage. I mean, the whole world was watching, these members of European Parliament standing up for Canada, which was really interesting because that doesn't really happen. We don't have any politicians in Canada that stood up for us, and to see global politicians standing up for us was really heartwarming.
Now, when you
especially members like Christine Anderson.
When you called Trudeau modern Caligula, what did you mean by that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, he resembles, I think, out of all the tyrants that exist and have existed in history. I think he resembles Caligula the most. He was called the Mad Emperor. His real name was actually Germanicus.
Right.
And what he had done to the people wanted, mad. When something happened in his season.
Oh, he froze up.
I think his connection's worse than mine.
Don't worry about that Watchman guy. He's just he's in Canada and he hates Artur, hates Ruben, hates me.
Yeah, absolutely. He hates anyone who stands up against him. And I've been saying this often: is you have your rights and your freedoms in Canada, in America. Nobody's taking away your rights and freedoms unless you step outside the party line. Unless you step outside of what is permissible by the state, right? So you have your rights and freedoms until you step outside of that. And there are people like Ruben was, like my dad is, who would step outside of that, and they were like Ruben was like banned from Canada, and like they just hate people who stand for the truth, who are going to oppose the party line, oppose the government hypocrisy and the corruption and the double standards in the government. So that's why people like yourself, people like Ruben, people like my dad are targeted, because they're the front runners of standing up against this.
Now, what happened with that warrant? Because I know I just want to make sure I told the story right. You said your speech, you came back, they said there was a warrant. Then, because again, I know you're in Canada, America, we call them, we have states, you guys have provinces and whatnot. What happened with that?
Yeah, so actually, when I left, there was no problems. My passport wasn't flagged. There was nothing wrong. I left the country perfectly fine. No problems. If I had a warrant, they would have stopped me and told me, hey, you have an outstanding warrant. You can't leave. But there was nothing like that. So I went to Belgium, where the European Parliament is, no problems. But upon returning to Montreal, where I had a layover, that was the port of entry, and they told me that, well, they led me through corridors and to different places, and they treated me and my mom very differently. I went with my mom there, and we were both treated very differently upon arrival. They were stamping our passports weird and leading us, and eventually they led us into an interrogation room where we were searched and interrogated and questioned for some period of time. And then finally, the Canada Border Service Agency officer told me I had a warrant out for my arrest. And that was the reason that they were interrogating and searching us. But because it was a municipal matter, it was a bylaw warrant. It said that Calgary Police Service has a warrant out for my arrest over a bylaw infraction. So it's not a criminal matter. It's not a Canada-wide warrant. So the Canada Border Service Agency officer in Montreal had no jurisdiction. So he said, I can go along and just go about my flight and go back to Calgary, but I might have problems upon arrival. And upon hearing this, I contacted my dad and got a lawyer and started to make a huge stink about it. It went viral on Twitter. And I believe that the pressure of that and the exposure and the backlash caused the warrant to be rescinded. This isn't something that's far-fetched, because this exact same thing happened to my dad. When he was in the States, he was touring and exposing the Canadian government. And then when he was coming back, he contacted Calgary police and asked them, hey, is there a warrant out for my arrest? They said, no, there's nothing wrong. You can come back to Calgary. And when he arrived, he was arrested on a warrant. So when he was in the air, they issued a warrant and arrested him on the tarmac when he arrived. So I thought this is a similar situation. I was on a global stage exposing the Canadian government, and they did this. But there was huge backlash. People are contacting the Calgary Police Service, and I believe that truly caused the warrant to be rescinded. My lawyer says it could have been an error on the court's part, could have been an error on the police's part, but it definitely wasn't an error on the Border Service
officers' part. They don't make mistakes like that. So I saw the computer. My passport was flagged. Was a warrant out for my arrest. So I believe the pressure really worked and caused them to rescind the warrant. And there's no warrant out right now, so nothing's happening with that. However, I do have 2 pending charges because I decided to read the Bible outside of a drag event, because our mayor decided to pass an unconstitutional bylaw that's not allowed to protest within 100 meters of an LGBT event, a drag event. So completely unconstitutional law. Like, this is insanity. And I broke it, and we're fighting it now. So I did have to get a lawyer, and we're fighting that. I was also charged with a bylaw harassment because I was reading the Bible and preaching outside of this event on a public sidewalk, outside of a public library, where a biological man dressed as a woman provocatively reading to underage children.
Wow. And people think in America that can't happen, but
Wow.
Nathaniel, let me tell you. I don't know if your dad told you, but just I want to get your input on this too. So I actually had 2 lesbians put a restrainer against me here in America for posting Bible verses on Facebook. Now I didn't get arrested or anything like that, but I could be if I did it again. So do you have anything to warn Americans about? Like, that happened to me as a street preacher here, and the churches here, you know, they still won't do anything about it. I don't know if that's happening up there by you, but one thing your dad used to tell when he came on here was he really wanted to warn Americans about what's taking place up there and how close we are here to what's happening to you guys up there.
Yeah, well, you have to understand that tyranny doesn't happen overnight. It's always stripping one right and one freedom at a time, and they take away your rights and freedoms incrementally. So what they did in Canada is they did really smart. Canadians are quite passive. We haven't really experienced any conflict on our soil. Canadians don't really understand that your own government can be actually out to get you. It's just a foreign concept to Canadians. Europeans understand that a little bit more because they've actually experienced that, where their own government was out to get them. I mean, all of human history basically is your own government, your own kings, your own pharaohs, your own tyrants that are, you know, dictators that are ruling over you, and they're actually out to get you. They're out to harm you, not to do you good. But Canadians don't understand that. So what they did is they told us we have rights and freedoms, which is true. We do have rights and freedoms until you step outside of what the government finds permissible. So if you're outside of that party line, well, then you're going to be arrested, jailed, and they're going to say, yeah, you have rights and freedoms, but they're subject to restrictions because of this and this and this, right? So we justify infringing your rights and freedoms because you're stepping outside of what we say is permissible. Like, my dad was just found guilty of a thought crime. So right. He's facing prison time because he said words that the government agrees with. Right. So it's a thought crime. And Canadians allowed this to happen, and Americans are allowing this to happen, right? So you guys are quite confident in your Constitution. My dad, like to say very often, it's just a piece of paper, and tyrants use toilet paper. They don't care about paper. It means nothing to them. Poland Constitution, when it was subjugated by the regime, they don't care, right? You have your Constitution, and yet they're trying to pass, and maybe they already have, hate speech laws in California and New York and places like that where you can't say certain words. You have American rights and freedoms being taken away. You're just allowing that, right? You already have cities where you can't carry under the Second Amendment, which is just mind-blowing to me, because allowing rights and freedoms to be incrementally taken away, which Canada did. You saw what happened in COVID with Australia, with Canada, and how heavy the force of oppression was here, because they took away our guns, because they took away our speech laws, our religious laws, especially freedom of religion. They have to hammer that away, because anyone who serves God over government, God over man, needs to be taken out of the picture, because those people are the most difficult to subdue. So they had to come after religion. They did that in Canada. There's precedent set right now in the courts where they can do this. They got away with it. Canada got away with it. The Canadian government got away with all the tyranny that they imposed. They imposed martial law on peaceful Canadians. They trampled grandmas with horses. They beat truckers with batons. They had rubber bullets ready to spray into the crowd. They got away with this. We had an inquiry into that Emergency Act invocation, and they said it was justified. So we just set a precedent that Canada can get away with this. And you guys are setting a precedent with the January 6th stuff, with all this stuff that's going on. You guys are allowing the U.S. government to treat you this way, and you're setting a precedent, and you're doing nothing. I mean, I find it so shocking that America went to war over a tea tax. I mean, I know it was a little bit more complicated than that, but now you have taxpayer-funded drag shows in America.
Yep.
We have them in Canada, but you have them in America, and you're just allowing it to happen. I mean, I know there's many people in America that are not okay with this, and you are still the hotbed of Christianity. You have the most missionaries, all that stuff. However, you're letting them get away with it. And I believe America's turned into Babylon. For the most part, you guys have rejected the covenant you had with God. Just like Canada, America was built on a covenant that you set with God. And you have broken that covenant. Why would you expect blessings? Why would you expect good government? I believe it was Thomas Jefferson who said, "You deserve the government that you elect."
That's right.
Right? You deserve this. I mean, this guy who calls himself the president, who doesn't even know where he is, or if it's ice cream time or what it is, sniffing children and eating ice cream and falling off bicycles. Tripping over stairs, right? Maybe it deserves this because you walked away from God. You walked away from your covenant that you had with God. And you have to go back to that. That's the warning that I have for America. You have to go back. You have to humble yourselves. Realize the error that America has gone through as a whole nation. There's still a remnant. I think America has the biggest remnant church. But for the most part, you've completely walked away from God. And you have to humble yourselves and go back to that.
Yeah, your dad was telling us, because he was here. He came here, and I introduced him to Eric Trump and Governor Lee and a couple senators in Tennessee. And he was here, and he did a tour through all the churches, or a lot of churches in America. And I'm just a street preacher here. I'm not Joel Osteen or anything like that. But your dad told me when he came here, I was the only one who introduced him to a politician in this entire country.
Yeah.
The churches couldn't be bothered.
That's true. I mean, I was there with him. I traveled the States, and then I went the next summer with my mom because he was on house arrest. So I went in his stead. He had another tour scheduled, and politicians are not getting involved in stuff like this. Finally, we had some breakthrough, and we had senators like Josh Hawley who are putting Canada on a religious persecution watch list. They're seeing what's going on around the world, especially in Canada. And of course, you have to acknowledge what's going on in the United States with all this stuff. Yeah. But I find it odd that there's so few politicians that are willing to get involved in this stuff because they're so scared for their career. It's more of a position thing. It's not even a moral thing. And they don't feel obligated to serve a greater cause. And they're just selfish. So obviously my dad was very grateful that you made that introduction with him.
Well, your dad also, just so you know, I don't know if you know, but my daughter came with me, and my daughter was there. She got kicked out of school for wearing this shirt, actually. And your dad actually, through all that, because everybody wanted to talk to your dad, pulled her aside and took the time to just tell her he was proud of her and to keep doing what she's doing. And all that mess, your dad, pulled her aside from everybody wanting to shake his hand to do that. And I thought that was pretty cool of your dad to do, because everybody wanted to talk to your dad. But he was telling us when he stood on that stage that what happened to you guys in Canada, like you said, didn't happen overnight, and it started with the compromise of the churches. And I wanted to ask you, is it true today as it was 2 years ago? He said that you guys were pretty much left out to dry. The churches are backed away from you guys, and they're not doing anything. Is that still true today?
Oh, it's even more so true today, because what we saw with COVID was 99% of the churches that betrayed their people and betrayed God. And yet people decided to go back to those churches that betrayed them. The very churches that implemented vaccine mandates and passports and masks at the door and segregated people, did Zoom church, just completely betrayed the faith. And yet people are going back to them. Those churches receive millions of dollars from the government for government funding for shutting down their churches, millions and millions of dollars. And they don't, why would they get involved when they have such a comfortable life making millions of dollars? It's a business for them. It's not faith. It's not church. It's not actually following Christ. It's a business. So it's so much more true even today, because right now we're in a worse position. I know the mandates are gone and the restrictions are gone and it seems COVID is over, but we're in actually worse position than we were. More of our rights are being taken away. More laws are being passed to hurt us. And it's happening secretly, and people are blind to it, and the church is blind to it. And we're being completely subverted as a Western culture, as a country that was built on Judeo-Christian values, on a country that was built on the moral law of God and a covenant with God. And we've gone so far away from that, and the church is doing nothing. 99% of the there's a few. There's a handful of churches in all of Canada that took a stand and that are taking a stand now. Majority of them went back completely to what they were doing, which is business, which is comfort. I believe what it started with actually in Canada was the charitable status. I think you have a name for that in the States. It's like a C3 something status.
501c3.
Yeah.
Right. So that charity status in Canada, if you speak about homosexuality, if you speak about abortion, if you speak about divorce, if you speak about the moral issues, they consider it political, and you're not eligible to be tax exempt and to be charitable. So what they did is they took away anyone who was talking about those moral issues. They took away their tax exempt status, and the church has gotten so afraid of losing that, because that's a huge money making thing. If you lose that, you'll lose millions and millions of dollars. So the church has got afraid of that, and they're not talking about any of these issues anymore. So what does that do? That allows the government to control what the church is talking about, because they consider that political and not religious, even though they're all moral issues. They are biblical issues, and yet they're not allowing you to talk about them. And that's, I believe, how it started. The biggest attack on the church when that was happening in Canada.
So you have a state church.
So what you're saying, Nathaniel, is that they sold out for 30 pieces of silver.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They betrayed Jesus for money.
Yep. I don't know if you guys can see the questions here. Does Canada have a constitution like the United States does? And you guys keep it. Don't too long. He only had about 30 minutes, he said. So if you want to ask him questions, do it now before he has to head out of here.
Yes. So we have a constitution called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It is in our constitution, a Bill of Rights, and pretty well enshrined. However, so you have the First Amendment. We have something called Section 1, and it's very different than your First Amendment. What happens, what's stated in Section 1 of the Charter of our Constitution is that the government can actually take away any of our rights and freedoms if they deem it reasonable. So they literally prefaced our Constitution with saying, yeah, you have these rights and freedoms, but we can also take them all away if we say it's reasonable. Wow. So it's not as well endowed as the U.S. Constitution. Yours is much stronger, much well written, harder to subvert. But they're still doing it to you. I mean, yes. You guys, look what's going on in the United States, in California and New York, actually, even in red states. Look at what's going on. And you have a constitution. How is that protecting you, right? At the end of the day, it's up to the people. It's not up to a piece of paper.
Somebody asked, are you down with David Lynn?
I've seen some of his preaching. I believe he's out of Montreal. I've seen some of his preaching and the stands he's taken. He's had some run-ins with the LGBT alphabet mafia people, and I like what he's doing. I don't know much about him. I've seen some clips of his preaching, so I think he's doing some good stuff. I've never met him. I think my dad's spoken to him on the phone a couple times, but we don't know him.
Oh, okay.
I met him in Arizona. Shook his hand, talked to him for about 5 minutes. That's the only time I've ever met him.
Dave, do you have any questions for Nathaniel?
Yeah, I was wanting to know. So it started off. I guess there was Artur said there was some things that were going on before the pandemic, but since the pandemic, have things accelerated because of these so-called newfound powers that the government thinks they have in Canada?
Well, what the government is doing now is they're doubling down on what they were talking about in COVID, right? So they have to still maintain the lie. They can't just drop all the charges. They can't just let it off the hook, because then it kind of undermines what they were trying to accomplish. So right now they've doubled down. They're going after peaceful truckers. There are truckers still in prison actually to this day. So 18 months later, they're still in prison. Some of them were in prison for a year in solitary confinement. Truckers that did nothing wrong. So the Canadian government right now is doubling down. The court said that basically the martial law that was imposed on Canadians was justified. Everything that the government did was justified. What the police did, all of this stuff is justified and right. And the court stuff is still proceeding. So people are still being ticketed. They're going through the court process for the tickets and arrests that they went through because they challenged the health mandates and the COVID stuff, the masking, the social distancing, the unscientific vaccine stuff, the passports, the complete erosion of everything we once stood for. So yeah, Canadian government is doubling down right now. So in a way, it is worse. Yeah, we got our restaurants and our hockey games back, but so what? So what? We just told the government you can do whatever you want.
So Caligula's still giving you the circus, but he's not giving you your rights.
Exactly. Well, he's giving us bread games, as they say. So we still have some bread, not for long. As what I'm seeing happening with the economy, we won't have bread for long. As North America as a whole, I believe God will protect His church, people always. But for the most part, people will lose their bread. But He's still giving us circuses. He's given us games. We still have Netflix. We still have the hockey games and all that stuff. But yeah, we don't have our rights anymore.
Yeah. So a couple more questions, Nathaniel, if you're okay with that. Somebody said, I don't know you, but what do you think about my state, Michigan?
I'm not sure. I don't know much about Michigan. I don't even know if it's a red state or blue state. I've never been there. So I'm really not educated in that.
It's a blue state with I think Michigan is Gretchen Wilson, I believe, is the governor. She's the one. Yeah, she was one of the worst when it came to COVID, trying to lock down the state.
Oh, then you're similar to Canada. I know there was the whole Flint, Michigan thing. But yeah, I'm not sure about what's going on there. But from what I'm hearing, it's not good.
And Nathaniel, do you also plan, or do you currently work in ministry like your dad? And you are very well spoken.
Thank you. Well, I do some preaching here and there and reading the Bible stuff, but I believe God's leading me a little bit differently. What I want to do is I want to go to law school. I want to potentially go into politics. I want to start getting involved in the systems that the church so long neglected because they fed the lie to the people that what does the light have to do with darkness? What does the church have to do with the evil stuff? Well, if you leave it to the devil, then the devil will take over. And I don't believe that is a biblical mentality to have. So I want to go take back the institutions that the church neglected and take them back for God. Bring back the moral law. I also started a sort of organization for the I think America is amazing when it comes to that. You have lots of things for young people, how to get involved, conservative Christian minds, like kind of like points, the Wire, PragerU stuff. We don't have anything for people that think against the woke stuff in Canada. So me and friends started a thing in Canada for the young people called True to Me Canada. And what we want to do is want to educate people and young people how to get involved in fighting madness that we see and how to equip young people to stand up for moral rights, moral law and morality, and so that's what I've been doing. Obviously, I am involved with everything that my dad does, and yeah.
Now, for what you're doing with your, I guess, your organization started, are you collecting donations? Do you have a link that we can put up here if people want to help?
I do, but right now, because I just had to hire a lawyer over two nonsense charges. So one of the bylaws actually has up to a year in prison as a penalty for reading the Bible and preaching, even though it's not even a criminal matter. It's a bylaw infraction. It's a municipal law that the mayor and town council passed for the city of Calgary. It has up to a year in prison. So I had to hire a lawyer. My dad obviously had to pay quite a sum for this lawyer because there's not any Christian or good lawyers that are going to help us pro bono. So we had to hire a constitutional lawyer. So my dad is collecting funds for that on his website, streetchurch.ca. We're raising funds for that.
Street Church. Okay. I'm going to put that up here. So if you guys want to help Nathaniel out with his legal fees, remember, in America, we have free speech attorneys that do our cases for free. We don't have to pay them. These guys do. So if you want to help, Artur's website, streetchurch.ca. You guys, I think you get 2 credit cards in there, right?
Yep. Yeah. There's lots of ways. Any way you'd like to help out, everything's laid out on the website.
Sounds good. So there it is, streetchurch.ca. Nathaniel, I know you didn't have much time, but is there anything you want to say before we let you go?
Well, just keep doing what you're doing. I watch you guys and know what you're doing. Thank you guys for standing up for us, for my dad, my family. Everything you're doing is amazing. And America, you better start pushing back soon, or the state of Canada that it's in, it'll be even worse for you. So start pushing back and standing up for what's right.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. And if you have my contact info now. If you guys need anything, let me know.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
God bless.
You too.
God bless.
All right. Yeah, he said he only had about 30 minutes, so I didn't want to keep him. So you got, I don't know, watching an interview, I learned quite a bit about our own history in that he's talking about the truckers in jail. Sounds like J6. He talked about how the churches don't do anything up there. And ultimately the state church stuff. I mean, were you guys paying attention to that?
I certainly hope people were paying attention to that. If they're not going to pay attention to that, exactly what's happening in Canada is going to be happening in America within the next 4 or 5 years. It's just they're on a fast track. That's all.
I don't even think it's going to be 4 or 5 years. I mean, he said, America is where we're at today, but, 4 or 5 years. But Dave, you've been involved in a lot of stuff with us. I don't think it's 4 or 5 years off. They're trying to do it now.
I'm trying to be generous.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, but think about it. If there were no street preachers that existed in this country right now, like in Canada, there's not that many. And these LGBT people were doing what they're doing, there would be nobody to fight back. And they would get away with it. It's the remnant here in America that's willing, we're us, the guys the churches hate. Like Nathaniel and his dad. The churches hate them up there.
Right.
We had your buddy Andre Rose on here, Dave. And he's like, you guys worship a dead man. The guy that they call the wannabe Reuben Israel or wannabe Rich Penkoski up there in Canada.
Andre Rose doesn't like me much.
No, he doesn't like anybody. He doesn't like anybody. He wants to be Reuben, wants to be me, probably wants to be you too, who knows. And he hates Artur, can't stand Artur, hates everybody. He has that Lone Ranger spirit. But that's the kind of stuff that goes on. You got guys that are fighting up there, just like here. Fighting for speech, fighting for the rights, and you have Christians that oppose them. So what does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that exactly what the Bible says. There's nothing new under the sun. The same things that were happening to Jesus and happening to the apostles are happening now. I mean, you had religious people or so-called religious people who supposedly were serving God were chasing around after Paul, trying to undermine his ministry every opportunity they got. And they were persecuting him worse than the Roman government. And they wanted to use the power of the Roman government to come after him, which is exactly what they are doing here. The so-called religious people. I'll give you a good example. I've preached with Brother Jim Gillis a couple of times, several times actually, at Muslim Day at the Capitol there in Oklahoma, where you are, Rich. And every year they take
January 6th.
Yeah, January 6th. They take these lukewarm, pukewarm Christians from these liberal churches, and they set up a gauntlet to try to protect the Muslims coming to the Capitol from having the gospel preached to them. God forbid that they should hear the message of Jesus Christ going into the state capitol. There's actually so-called Christians out there deliberately standing in the way of preaching the gospel to these Muslims because they care more about the feelings of the Muslims than they do the salvation of their souls.
Right. Well, we'll address this now since they want to come on here and start this. And Dave, I'm putting there because, don't you think you owe Mr. John Williams an apology? John Williams is correct, but railing. I didn't want to do this on Ruben's channel, but since, obviously I spoke with John Williams. He called me because I had concerns. Well, again, you heard one. You decided a matter when you've heard one side of the story, which, by the way, is unbiblical. Secondly, I don't owe John an apology for anything. I don't know what you've heard, but I haven't done literally have done nothing. Neither have I. He made the video. I literally, for a month, stayed out of it on purpose because I did not want, number one, to do anything before Ruben's funeral. And number two, hey, whatever. It wasn't until I started getting messages that he was telling people that I stole Ruben's website, which 6 months ago, Ruben turned the website and the domain over to Rich Pinkowski and Rich Pinkowski's server for two reasons. One, because he was having nothing but problems with his hosting company. Every month the site was going down. It would go down for a week, 2 weeks at a time. They were charging him double, triple sometimes, and he got sick of it. So he asked if he could put it on mine. And two, in case anything ever happened to him, the website would be in, and I quote, good hands, is what Ruben said. And that was done 6 months ago. It's all there, by the way. The dates are there. Okay. Secondly, he said I locked him out of the accounts. It's not my fault that he didn't try to log in for the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it was. Ruben actually said, Rich, you take care of it, since he was too busy on Wednesday nights when he would get the two-factor authentication message to say, hey, this is your, you got to confirm it's you. Whenever I would switch a phone or computer, he went into, and Ruben got frustrated to just take them off and you do it. And again, we have the screenshots with the actual dates. So deciding a matter when you hear one side of it is completely unbiblical. If anybody owes anybody an apology, he owes me and David an apology for lying about us, for slandering us, saying that we stole banners, saying that we stole, what else was it? T-shirts, saying that we tried to cause a problem in the funeral. The problem with that is there are way too many people there that can verify that that literally never happened. So
no one caused a problem at the funeral. There wasn't anybody.
Nobody did.
Caused a problem at the funeral. So and everybody was good at the funeral and didn't cause any problems for the family, and that's exactly what we wanted, was a peaceful funeral for Ruben and some respect for the family, which fortunately did happen. No one got out of line, although at the funeral, one guy did pull out a banner and start preaching, which was kind of fun.
But that was outside. That was outside, though. And it was somebody who was for Ruben, not against him.
Yeah, that was for Ruben. It was outside. Right. It was so it was all good, fine. I think he would have got a kick out of that anyway. And Ruben, in case any of you here that are not saved, you need to
get saved. That was funny. But
so I don't feel like I owe anyone an apology because I haven't really done anything to you.
We haven't done anything. I'm getting phone calls like crazy.
The only thing we've done is decide that we're not going to go in this new direction, and we're going to stay in the direction. We don't believe we need to raise the standard because we don't believe there was anything wrong with the standard Ruben set.
Yeah, and just for clarity, I will go ahead. Let me ask my wife for the screenshot showing the date when the YouTube stuff was changed, because the lies are insane. And I didn't want to get into this, but I have proof. Let me ask my wife for the screenshot. Screenshot of YouTube change.
The passwords on all that stuff was changed over a year ago. I think it's a year and a half, 2 years.
And not even that, but Ruben and I, so somebody was actually logging into Ruben's account. And they were actually typing things out. We don't know who it was, by the way. They were typing things out, and then they would like flag his account and get him suspended. And we couldn't figure it out. Like, for the life of us, we're going nuts trying to figure out who's logging in, who's making these posts, because they were really weird posts.
That happened. I remember Ruben talking about that.
Yeah.
When that, and I guess you guys had to come in and just change all the passwords or something.
Right, because we couldn't figure it out. And when we did, we kind of kicked everybody that had devices for Ruben's stuff out. And then we took it from there, because we still don't know who did it. We thought maybe it was somebody within like Facebook that did that. Right there.
It could have been. It could have been.
Huh? Yeah. We thought it was somebody in Facebook that did that to Ruben, because, well, can you really say you don't think Facebook would do that? Of course they would.
Oh yeah, Facebook would do that.
Absolutely, they would.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you this right quick. Sorry, I used the term right quick. Ugh.
I got a call executive once, and we had a.
You guys, hold on. They can't see the date on there, so I have to fix that. I have a screen, and again, this is the beautiful thing about why I love some of the stuff that we do, is because this stuff doesn't lie. And again, I'm not a liar, and I don't like being called a liar. So there it is right there. Bam. Two-step verification on that. You see, wait, let me get rid of this. January 1st, 2022 is when it was changed. That was the last time it was changed to change a two-step. So again, I'm just showing this to you because this is the truth. And just to point out the fact that I don't owe anybody an apology, and you know what? Just, I got sucked into this, and let's just move on.
Okay, let's move on.
Let's just move on. I got sucked into this, and I didn't want to do that. So somebody says, Pastor Dave, I liked your work at Target. Hey, I was there too.
Well, I tell you what happened over that. Clapper didn't like my work at Target.
I told you.
I put that up on Clapper, which is supposed to be like a more free version of TikTok, and it went viral on Clapper. It had hundreds of thousands of views, and then they stripped me of my account and booted me off of Clapper over that one video. So I lost my entire account over that one video, and I put it up on Facebook, and I ended up in Facebook jail over it. Imagine that,
Yep.
And all we did was we went into Target and actually showed people what they were selling. I mean, there were tarot cards, right? There was children's clothing with gay stuff on it. There was children's clothing that talked about the Hellfire Club, with a devil's face on it and stuff. This stuff is demonic, absolutely demonic. And we just showed that. That's all we were doing. It's not like we planted that stuff in there.
Yeah.
They just were selling that stuff, and we just showed it. And we talked about it. And apparently people got really upset over showing the truth.
And they took it off of mine on YouTube.
Yes.
They took it down, and again, you got to remember, so what you guys don't realize is what's happening is YouTube is actually going after, so if you look at the latest polls, the support for the LGBT amongst Republicans is down over 14% from last year. And surprisingly, it's down over 10% amongst Democrats. That's a big number. So what they're doing now is, and the reason that people are losing why they're losing support is because of the exposure of who they really are. That when people see the videos, you can't lie. What are you going to say? The context. I'm sorry. But when you see a video of a little boy putting a dollar bill in a grown man's G-string at a drag queen show, you don't, really? You want to know the context of that? That's not enough for you?
Right. And then that's what Jesus said. Jesus said the darkness hates the light.
Yeah.
Because the light exposes the darkness.
Right.
So darkness wants the light to turn off, to go away, to stop it. And that's why they censor us. That's why they do all these things. That's why they shut down our accounts. But there's going to come a day of judgment in which the light is going to shine uninterrupted and uninterfered with, and everything done in the darkness is going to come into the light, and there's nothing at that time they can do about it.
That's right.
And so there's a day of reckoning coming.
So what YouTube is doing is any preach that anything that a conservative, a Christian does that exposes this agenda and this wickedness and what they're doing, they are removing them. And make a mistake about it, they operate at the behest of LGBT activists. Don't let anybody fool you. These platforms operate on their behalf. They will bow down to the sodomites. If the sodomites say their feelings are hurt, your video's gone. If they say,
brother, they don't bow down to them. They bend over forward.
That's
the correct terminology. They bend over forward. LGBT community.
Yeah, that's what they do.
That's what they do.
But that's what they're doing. That's why, and you'll notice on Rumble, the Rumble channel, I changed it to rumble.com/c/official street preachers instead of Warriors for Christ. So I migrated the Rumble channel over to that already too, because Rumble hasn't censored anything. And believe me, I've pushed the line a little bit on there. Videos that got taken down off of YouTube in the past, I've put on Rumble, and I never had a problem. They're still up there, no issues. So thus far, Rumble's a little cumbersome to use, but they're not censoring like YouTube. So we need to keep exposing this because, listen, you guys, David is here with me now on this video, and he can confirm. You guys, I can't share any news articles because I have a gag order on me. I can't share certain news articles of what the situation in Oklahoma is. And if Dave shares them, he's doing it completely in his own, not because of me, not because I asked him to. He was there.
I am not his agent.
Right. So, but he'll tell you for a fact, there is child trafficking that took. Actually, we can't talk about this. This doesn't have any names in it.
That's right.
So David and I were preaching at the Bartlesville Pride last year. Me, David, and Jim Gillis, and there was a little girl, and she was screaming at us about male genitalia and its size. And I found it very disturbing to hear a 9-year-old girl. I subsequently found out she was 11, not that makes it any better. But an 11-year-old girl who was screaming small energy, whatever energy. And I just found it disturbing. Even the news reporter, the local news reporter, who is very favorable to the LGBT, even he was like, yeah, I don't know what to do about that except just stand here and smile. And my wife noticed a logo on the shirt of the little girl's mother, and it was a group home. So my wife started doing a little digging into her and found out that this woman named Comfort Kydell actually owns a group home with children, or she's president or vice president, something like that.
It's private. That was a private organization.
Private organization, right. Subsequently, she worked for the state of Oklahoma in the Department of Human Services, which is Oklahoma's version of like DIFAS and CPS. They call it DHS. She was working there as the head recruiter for foster parents, and she was the chair of their diversity board. Can you take a wild guess what this LGBT woman was doing? Just take a wild guess.
My wild guess is that she was taking.
Well, you can't guess. You already know.
Oh, okay.
These guys have to. These guys have to guess.
Okay.
Let's see who read the article and who didn't. And if they didn't read the article, just take a wild guess of what she was doing. Where's my Jeopardy music? Again, what do you think she was doing? Could Jim join us sometime? I'm sure Jim will join us sometime. But, so anyway, you know what, Dave? You could say we should go. Nobody's answering, so go ahead.
Okay, what she was doing was she was recruiting homosexuals to be foster parents. Then she was assisting in taking children out of homes and putting them in with gay foster parents. And then if the parental rights got terminated by the courts, she was then funneling those same children to gay couples outside and having them adopted out to gay couples. So this was a LGBT child trafficking system that they take these children out of people's homes, putting them in gay foster homes, and then using her position in the state to figure out which children she wanted to do that with. And then she had her private adoption agency outside that she sat on the board. I think she was the vice president, and there was some fake reverend or whatever who was leading it. And then they were putting these children into adoption, gay adoption.
Yeah.
But she was violating Oklahoma law in doing that, because if you work for the state of Oklahoma in a child protective division, you cannot be involved in a private adoption agency outside without informing the state, because there could be a severe conflict of interest.
And guess where she doesn't work anymore?
She got fired. She does not work there anymore.
So 3 ragtag street preachers, right? Just 3 of us, myself, David, and Jim Gillis. That video is up on my channel, the Words for Christ channel. That video is up on there. But it was 3 I want you to think about this. It was 3 of us, me and David and Jim, just 3 of us. I mean, if you looked at it, looked really pathetic when you had this pride show, drag queens, and you see 3 guys across the street with a bullhorn with 1 banner, right? You think, wow, most people must support this. But and I'm going to let Dave tell you what happened, because you guys have heard of me on my channel, but you need to hear it from somebody else. So David, when the 3 street preachers showed up, here we are almost 1 year later. What happened to Bartlesville?
Oh, just like the Apostle Paul got 4 cities in an uproar, 3 street preachers got Bartlesville, Oklahoma in an uproar. Quite literally. We had sent some people inside the event to take video and photographs of the drag show that was going on. And so that video got transmitted to Rich, and Rich transmitted that video to other outside parties. And some of that video went viral on libs of TikTok and ended up on the Tucker Carlson show a couple of times. And so because of that exposure of what was going on at the drag show specifically, and most people in Bartlesville had no idea about the child trafficking thing.
They do now.
They do now. That have been written and the news associated with all of that afterwards. But at this time, they were upset about the drag show and the man grabbing his crotch in front of the little children and bending over and shaking his mostly naked butt in front of the children in a public park right there in the middle of their little conservative community. And they started a petition with over 2,000 signatures, and they gave it to, and this, by the way, weren't even involved in this part. We were the spark for this fire, but we didn't do the fire itself.
Right.
We helped throw some gas on it every once in a while, keep it going. But basically,
us? No.
Us? No. Yeah.
We would never do that.
They got very upset. There was a petition to pass an ordinance outlawing this, and tons of people showed up at the city council meeting to present the petition. And then they showed up at the next city council meeting, and then the next city council meeting, and several months later, they were still going to the council meetings. And then they launched.
David, we did go to one of those meetings.
We did go to one. Yes.
We're not allowed
And then
anymore.
To another one.
but David, we're not allowed anymore to go to council meetings and speak. After David and I spoke. Now remember, this Bartlesville was in a town for a long time. They always had open. You sign up, you speak, no problem. David and I spoke, and after we spoke, they cut that. Nope, you have to live within 10 miles to speak, because the city council people, who, by the way, every single one of them says they're Christian, right? All 5 of those council members and the city attorney all claim to be God-fearing men and women, and yet only 2 voted not to censor speech because they didn't like it. The mayor, Dave, I didn't tell you this. The mayor, the guy that leads the council, the mayor, Dale Copeland, the guy who voted. Now, remember, you guys, 3 councilmen voted to allow these freaks to take the drag show indoors, right? To do what they do to kids so you can't see it. The mayor, who is a pastor of a church, voted in favor of doing that. A pastor, Dave.
So he's going to please his LGBT constituents, but he's going to be in trouble with God. Yeah. Because he who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the just, both of them alike are an abomination unto the Lord. That's what the word of God says.
And do you know what this guy said? This mayor said, if this guy, Rich Penkoski, never got involved, none of this would be happening. So he was more concerned with the backlash than he was about what the drag queens did to children in his town at a public event.
Except, you see, Rich, they blamed us for this problem because we were outsiders, right?
Right. But no. They didn't blame us for it happening because we had nothing to do with it happening. They blamed us for exposing it and forcing them to deal with it.
Right. But not a single one of those drag queens was from Bartlesville. They were all from out of state. They were from Texas, Arkansas. So they were outside. They had outsiders coming and stirring up trouble with the children. Those are the ones you ought to be blaming and saying, stay out of our town. You shouldn't be here.
Right. And not even that, but those drag queens, we just happened to do a little digging, snooping around, if you will. And they're all drug addicts. Every one of them is drug addicts. We just smoke pot. That's a drug. They have the most disgusting, filthy, deviant stuff on their social media, right? With sex toys and everything about gratuitous. It's it is disgusting. And these are the people. These are the people that the LGBT wants around your children to influence your kids, and their excuse is, well, there's a difference between an adult show and a kid show. Kids today have computers and iPads and cell phones, and you don't think they're going to look up the names of these people and see this stuff themselves? And even then, do you really think sexual perverts on drugs and everything else should be around and near your children?
Rich, you can't see that addicted drag queens shaking their naked butts in front of children is not family friendly?
It's not
really.
It's not.
That's family friendly.
It's not family friendly. I'm sorry.
You got to get with the modern. The modern way of thinking is that they're not even pedophiles anymore. They're minor attracted persons. They're born to can't help themselves.
They're born that way. But this is and then it gets even worse. And some of you read the articles, and I need to be careful what I say, and so do you, Dave, just because we're on this together. So just be careful be mindful of what you say. That not only did we uncover all that child trafficking stuff, we uncovered what potentially could be a cop serial killer.
Yeah.
There's an officer of the law currently on Bartlesville PD named Jessica Pitts. This woman used to work for DHS. Now, this woman, Jessica, just happens to be on the chapter of the Oklahomans for Equality out there in Bartlesville, and she's a police officer who also happened to be on duty the day of the drag show. Talk about a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
But before she was an officer of the law...
Yeah, go into all of that. That's important, that background.
She was working for DHS. This part is when you need to come in and pay attention, because you have never heard anything like this. And this is a red state this happened in. This woman, I don't know if she is bisexual or straight. She's definitely pro-gay. She looks like a lesbian, but we don't know for sure. Worked for DHS and was placing children in foster homes with gay parents, lesbian parents. One such parent was just put out on bail for a $50,000 bail for breaking the arm of a 9-year-old child. Now, you would think that breaking the arm of a child would disqualify you from being a foster parent. And if you're a straight person, it would. But if you're a gay person, not necessarily. So this LGBT-loving DHS worker, now turned cop, decided, well, we have these lesbians here. They're sure one of them's on a $50,000 bail for breaking a child's arm. Let's put a baby in the house with them. Well,
and what happened, bitch?
The baby was murdered. 2 months old, a 3-month-old baby, murdered.
Tortured
and murdered by this lesbian who is now serving a life sentence. And by the way, the judge that gave her the life sentence that was in this case just happened to be the same judge that gave the initial restraining order. Funny how that works. But she is now in jail for murder, for murdering a child. That this DHS worker ignored abuse and put it because they were so dead set focused on putting children in a home of gay parents, ignoring the violence and all this stuff, and now a child is dead. And the saddest part is there will never be any justice for this baby.
And then Jessica Pitts immediately quit DHS and filed to be a cop, and they hired her.
They hired her. And then she shot somebody.
Yeah, it's still not over.
No, this is another shooting. So
yeah, no, that was the first one.
The first shooting, right? And there's a lot of controversy around that because the guy that she shot allegedly or apparently, according to the family, didn't have a weapon. There was no reason to shoot him, and she just pulled the trigger anyway. And of course, she got away with that one. So that's 2 lives taken directly because of this woman. There was a shooting recently, and again, nobody knows who it is. However, the rumor is that it's her. The rumor is it was a female cop that shot this 24-year-old kid, I guess about 3 weeks ago. Now, again, I don't know for a fact if it's her or not. I'm just telling you what people in the city are telling me, that they do believe it's her. They're not releasing it. The Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation immediately on the same day started investigating. Something really isn't right. You'll never hear this on Fox News. You'll never hear this on CNN or Emmett. You'll never hear any of this on mainstream news while they're telling you that LGBT homes are safe for children. These are the stories that you won't hear, but I know for a fact they happened.
Now, there's a part in the middle there, Rich, that you left out.
Oh.
In between the 2 shootings, she was also put on suspension.
Oh, that's right.
Because she lied in court. She perjured herself in court because she was trying to accuse one of her fellow officers of groping her when in fact it did not happen. And so she was falsely accusing an officer of
who lost his job and everything.
And then she perjured herself, and she was actually suspended for perjury under an investigation.
Right.
Then they brought her back onto the police department, and now we think she may have shot someone else.
That's the rumor. So this other officer that got fired, she wanted his job. She wanted to be sergeant. So and his body cam footage is what basically proved that she wasn't telling the truth. But again, and she did get his job ultimately, because after all, you can't not give the LGBT what they want, or else they'll sue you or threaten to sue you for discrimination. And yet they claim that they're a minority, yet they have more power than any other group and this is happening in Oklahoma. Bartlesville, one of the most conservative states in this country. This happened in. It's been written about. It's in the news locally. And you are not going to hear this in an argument in the Supreme Court as to why children should be put in these homes. Why LGBT people should not be police officers, should not be that. It is so dangerous for me in Bartlesville that even my own lawyer said, if you go there, you better put a bulletproof vest on. And even the local reporter there joked and said, I'm not standing next to you if you come.
Nathaniel said they were the LGBT mafia, but what I call them is the Rainbow Klan, because they operate like
the tranny clan.
The Klan came out of violence, right? They came out of the Civil War, the violence of the Civil War. The LGBT movement came out of the violence of the Stonewall riots.
Right.
Both of them practice censorship, and both of them blackmail people into doing what they want by threatening boycotts and economic sanctions against people if they don't do what they want. Both the Klan has done that in the past, and so has the LGBT.
Well, here we go, Dave.
Like,
we have the Ku Klux Trans.
Yeah, the true Ku Klux Klan.
But what I'm saying is you guys, and I haven't talked this yet, and I didn't want to do this on Ruben's channel. I want to do this on my channel, but since it came up, this is happening across America. You know, police, judges, corrupt judges. I mean, just wait till I am free from this when this appeal is over, and I can talk freely about everything without worrying about going to jail. You are going to be shocked when you hear everything that took place and everything they tried doing, because their stack of papers they want to use as evidence was twice as thick as this right here. Twice as thick as this was the evidence they wanted to do. And I'm talking about screenshots from supposed Christians at the, whatever. I'm talking about, they actually printed some of the internet trying to call me a stochastic terrorist. And then they gave it to him and said, how do you feel about this? And the judge like, you can't do that. I mean, you can't print something online and go, here, how do you feel about this? But that's the kind of stuff that they try doing. And it's happening here in Oklahoma.
Now,
and by the way, if you guys want one of these, let me know. This is the program that for Ruben's funeral. We have this many left. We got rid of about half of them. Remember how many I had, Dave? Look how many we got left.
Yeah. Rich, we need to be telling everybody too about Bartlesville Gay Pride is going to be happening again on September the 9th. Mm-hmm. And we're going to try to put together a team to go up there. And really, if 3 street preachers made them that upset, we'd like to have 30 of them up there. We'd like to have 30 street preachers up there.
Well, we have a couple people last night that said they're looking at plane tickets. I know 2 other people, possibly 2 more from Florida. So a possibility of 4 plus you, 5. Jim, that's 6. Ryan is 7. I know of 2 or 3 other people locally. Larry Street will be out there. That's 8. We know the Not So Humble Boys might be out there. And some of the Oakland Patriots will be out there because they're more upset. They're upset about the free speech stuff. It could be a wind up being, a dozen to 2 dozen people out there.
We're hoping.
But you know what's amazing out of all of this, Dave? The local churches still will not stand with us. They said to me, and I quote, "You scare people, make it harder for us to bring the gospel." After everything that's happened in the past year, they still want to fight against us.
Brother, the problem is it's that attitude right there that has got us to the point. That's exactly the attitude, excuses they use for not being aggressive against this stuff. If you don't get aggressive with this stuff, it will run our country over. We will lose our freedom. We will lose our prosperity. And our country will go down the tube if we do not aggressively stand against this stuff. But the churches have been telling us for years, like Nathaniel was saying, oh, don't get involved in politics. That's not for Christians. We don't want to swim with the sharks. Well, what about the people that are out there that need to get saved? What about, if you surrender the government to the devil will use the power of the government to ruthlessly persecute the church.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen in the future because American Christianity has abandoned politics. We don't want to mix church and state. That's the devil saying that kind of nonsense. Why would you take the devil's advice? So, if the churches don't start getting involved, and judgment begins at the house of God, who do you think God is going to look at first whenever the devil takes over America?
So here's what I want. So here's what I want you to do. You guys, I'm banned on Facebook, so I can't say anything. So if you're not friends with David on Facebook, friend David Howard Grisham. And here's why. What I need you guys to do is we need to start emailing and calling ConocoPhillips 66 because they are a major sponsor of that drag show. I'm going to get the email addresses, and I want you to share those drag videos from that event and say, this is what you're I want to hammer them with phone calls and emails. This is who you support. This is where your money's going, and all that. On top of that, there is another. That same woman that was trafficking over DHS, well, I just found out she got herself another job working for the state, not the state, local government, works for something called CASA, which is a court-appointed special assistant or something like that, where she is an advocate for children. I don't know what happened to Dave. He just left. So we need to go after that and get her out of that position as well because she still has way too much influence over children. Way too much that she can cause a lot of damage. We already know what some of the stuff that these people do is, and we need to make sure we put a stop to this, that they don't get their grubby little paws on our kids anymore. We need to do something. And the local churches don't want to do anything about it. You know, the local churches were upset with me. The local churches were saying, well, you know, like you said, I'm making it harder to preach the gospel. I'm making it harder to, whatever, and I'm like, dude, these guys are handing out like, you're talking about the grooming of kids and you're worried about that stuff. Are you back, David?
I'm trying to come back.
Okay. What happened to you?
I got a phone call and it kicked me off.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
I'm here.
So this is something we can do effectively to bring real change to the landscape here. We have an opportunity here, but the church is there. So when David and I went and we stood up against this, local churches were upset. One church in particular said, you guys are this and the other. I said, well, it's funny. I didn't see you at the Pride event anywhere. I also noticed, Pastor, that you weren't at the city council meeting. And he said to me, he goes, well, I prayed that God would intercede and do something. I said, oh, that's interesting.
Maybe we're the answer to the prayer?
Right. I said, well, yeah, wouldn't be the answer to prayer maybe? I don't know. I mean, you want what you're getting the results that you asked God for. But he said, no. You're not the answer to prayer. Why? Because you were expecting what? A lamb to come in? You were expecting, like the Jews were expecting Jesus to come as a warrior when in reality he came as a lamb the first time? You expected something different? That's the problem. We say, God, please do this, but do it the way I want you to do it, or do it the way I expect you to do it. And when God shows up and does things that we may not expect, or, we're not used to seeing God work this way, we don't think it's God.
Well, here's what I tell people. Whenever some pastor or somebody in a church says, I don't really like the way you guys are doing this, I say, well, who cares what you think? You're not doing anything.
Yeah, I don't like the way you're not doing it.
I don't like the way you're not doing it. You're sitting around tail end doing nothing. Who cares what you think? You just need to sit down. If you're going to sit on the sideline, just sit down and be quiet and let the real Christians out on the battlefield do the fighting.
Yeah.
If you're going to run with the big dogs, stay on the porch with the puppies. We got no interest in hearing.
Hey! We don't want to talk puppies with the LGBT people there. They do that puppy play stuff. We don't want to get. We don't want any to do with that.
So, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
If they're not going to be involved in the solution, then they
right. They're part of the problem. Really.
We don't need their counsel on the solution if they're not going to be part of it.
That's right. Did
you just lose me again?
I can hear you, but we can't see. You're like frozen.
Did I freeze up?
Yeah, but we can hear you.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I guess we lost you.
Did I freeze up?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I'll just make it.
You can?
Yes.
I cannot hear you.
I'll have to make it solo. I'll have to make it solo for now until David gets back on there.
I'm going to try to get back in.
Oh, he left. Anyway, so I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. I also, again, want to make you aware, don't forget, David brought it up, September 9th is the Pride event in Bartlesville. It's not a hard preach, right? It's not a crazy one like Chicago or Atlanta or those things there. It's a relatively easy preach. We cross the street. The cops are already on notice that, there are attorneys that are watching, attorneys that are looking. They're going to be on their best behavior for the most part, from what I understand. It might be, if you've never preached before, if you're looking to get out there, it might be.
I still can't hear anything. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you. Did you break it?
I cannot hear you. Can you hear me? You
yes.
can.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot hear you. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Let me try something here. How about that? No. Yes, Gabriel, I will be preaching in Austin. I will be down there. Absolutely 150% will be there. So September 9th, if you can, it's plenty of notice. You got more than a month to come out here. You got to let me know, though, because like I said, I don't have a huge house, so I can't put everybody up in my house. But we do have an Airbnb literally across the street. And, I can see how much that is, but I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to pay for it because, well, unfortunately, the last Airbnb that I paid for, we still have somebody that hasn't paid their share of it yet. Which, by the way, is completely wicked. I mean, Ruben would have never tolerated that, but regardless. So if you want to come to that, you got to let me know. Like I said, there's an Airbnb across the street. It's a one-day preach. However, we could have, my wife already said, because my lawyer is advising me not to go if we don't get certain conditions met, because, getting arrested would mess up the appeal. We don't want to do that. So unless I have a physical marker to show where I am and I don't cross it and all that stuff, and we get assurance from the police that they're not looking, whatever, if we don't get that, I'm not going to go. So it depends. But if I don't go, you have Dave going. My wife will be out there. Yusef wants to go. Let me know, brother, if you want to go. I know Kaylee's coming. I don't know who else. Dave, can you hear me? Nope, I guess not. Nope. He's got it. Oh yeah, you see, guys, I don't need reading glasses anymore. I got those new contacts, and they have the middle part is the long distance, and then around it is the short distance.
I can see you.
So I can read without putting glasses on now with these new contacts.
I can't hear.
You broke it. He broke it. Anyway, Ruben usually close out the show with questions and answers, so I would do the same. Can't get Dave on here. I don't know what the deal is with that. So let me try real quick and see maybe. I can't hear you. I can hear you.
I cannot hear you. I still can't hear anything. I don't know what's gone wrong.
Is your speakers on?
Something's gone wrong. I can't hear you. I don't know if it's my connection or what. I can see you and maybe you can hear me, but I cannot hear you.
Can you guys hear David on the live stream? No, it's on your end, Dave. They're saying I'm going to have to. Let me just, let's just cut. We're going to have to cut that off because the people, you guys said he can't hear him. So I'm going to take a couple of questions real quick before we head out of here tonight. If you guys have any. Yes, David broke it. And then we'll be back on my channel tomorrow night. And I'm sorry for getting sucked into that nonsense. It's really hard not to for me. I'm really, really trying not to, and I apologize for that. I did not want to do that. Here, I'm trying my best to ignore it. I'm trying with everything in my fiber to ignore all of that noise because, it's been coming to me and I haven't done anything. And yet, it doesn't matter. I want to talk about it. So I just want to apologize for that here. With that said, any questions at all? I mean, we talked about a lot. Nathaniel we had on. We talked about the drag stuff. We talked about, local current events. And, this isn't really the model I want to do with this. We're still kind of figuring out what do we do with this because, unfortunately, without Ruben, it's not the same. It's just not, and I can't replicate what Ruben did because I'm not Ruben and I don't want to be Ruben. Nobody can be Ruben. But I do want to, because the only thing that he said was he trusts me with this. And I don't want to, I don't want to mess that up. So I know Eduardo's going to be uploading some videos to this channel as well. He's got some videos of Ruben he's going to upload here. I think I might be, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I believe he's going to upload some of Ruben's Bible studies. So you guys really want to pay attention to that because we're going to do that. Plus, I'm scouring. I've got tons of videos to go through, and I'm going to upload some of those too. And again, this isn't a matter of worshiping anybody. This is honoring our brother who fought long and hard for all of us in America to maintain the ability to preach the gospel on those streets. And we want to take advantage of that because the minute we stop doing it, we lose it. And we're going to continue fighting for that. I have not seen the Sound of Freedom yet. I don't know if Dave did or not. I did not. And I will go see it eventually. I haven't had any time. I have not had any time whatsoever to see any movies. When I tell you that my phone has been ringing from 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the morning the next day, it is literally off the hook with phone calls and messages and emails and phone calls and messages and messages and messages and messages and phone calls and phone calls and phone calls. It's been very hectic for me. It's been very, very... Look, I don't know how Ruben did it. I have no idea how he did what he did outside of preaching on the streets and that because... I don't want to, it's insane. The amount of time I spent on the phone. I even got a call yesterday from a brother who says, you got cauliflower ear yet? Because he knew, I don't know how he knew, but that my phone has been ringing up the hook. And it has. People asking for advice, counseling, hey, what's going on? So, I'm honored that people trust me with some of this stuff. I'm grateful for it. But I'm not Ruben, and I'm never going to be Ruben Israel. I just want to make that clear again. I know I keep repeating it. I am going to take what he taught me, like most of us will, and I'm going to incorporate it to make myself better as a preacher. One of my weaknesses that I recognize and need to deal with is my desire to fire back. And the reason I feel the need to fire back is because when I evaluate the body, when I look, my heart is for the body of Christ. And I don't want the body of Christ. I don't want anybody to go to hell. Contrary to what you may hear from some people, I really don't want anybody to go to hell. I don't want the homosexuals to go to hell. And I certainly don't want those who purport to be my brothers and sisters to go to hell either. But I feel this need, to protect my brethren. Even Ruben, when you guys remember when him and I were together here, I used to say all the time, I was a fierce defender of Ruben, and Ruben didn't care. He's like, I don't need that. He didn't care, but I did. I always felt the need to defend my brothers and sisters, to defend the body of Christ. That when I see something that I view as a threat to the body, when I see something that could potentially harm another person or the body, I want to immediately step in and try to fix it and try to help, because one of the reasons I believe as a society that we have this problem with the LGBT is because of a lack of information, that people are making decisions on one side. You know what I mean? Decisions all on one side. And they only hear one half of the conversation and they make decisions. And part of the reason, Christians, we all do that too. So I always like whenever you see like Ruben had a Slender video or I had one or something like that, I always needed to defend because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if this person? Because again, what I do in my ministry, and is we're dealing with some stuff that would make you guys cringe. You heard a little bit today about the stuff in the future, with the drag stuff, and even as state reps told me, you need to be careful because you're dealing with very powerful people in the state. So what we're doing here is because of that, we're always on guard. We're always like, oh my gosh, okay, so this can happen. And, we are actually rescuing children. I know I'm not on my channel, but Ryan Kelly, Aaron Guidry, remember, when back in the day, I was actually working with the Free Burma Rangers to rescue trafficked children in Thailand and help get supplies for Christians over there. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But some of you guys that followed me early on remember that. We've always been involved in rescuing trafficked children. So when I see a threat coming to our ministry, coming to me, I kick in the defense mode because what I do is for God, right? This is what God has told me to do. And God, has anointed me to do what I do. And I do it well only because God has given me the ability to do so. I can't do it on my own. God gave me the ability to do what I do. And for me, I don't want anything to disrupt or get in the way of protecting these kids. And when I see people doing things, like when they make these videos because they're like, oh, Rich is this or Ruben's that. Ruben was dealing with some stuff too in free speech, and he was dealing with, helping children. You guys don't even know. So when I see a threat to that, because, the enemy wants to stop this. Clearly, he doesn't want us or any of us that do this work to do it. Whether it's Shatter Ops, whether it's another one I'm not allowed to mention publicly. They don't want us to do this. The devil doesn't want us to do this work. So he's going to send everything he has at us to stop us. And I'm just trying to make you guys understand. So it's not my desire to go tit for tat. I never wanted to do that, but I allowed myself, and it's my fault, to get sucked into that stuff for years, back and forth. I always felt the need to defend myself. And I never really needed to, because most of the stuff that gets said about me is insane. But I always viewed it as a threat to what we're trying to do here, because my desire is to serve God first and foremost, to preach the truth, but to expose the evil and rescue these children, whether they're children in the womb from murder, or whether they're born children that are being trafficked, or whether they're being, whatever. When I see people doing that stuff, I view it as a threat to those kids. And I react as if somebody's trying to harm those kids. And it's something with me that I have to fix and get better at so that I don't continue that cycle, because I don't need to defend myself. And if one good thing has happened in the last 2 weeks is I'm learning that I don't need to defend myself. That God is going to do what he's going to do. And even after all the attacks from LGBT, from fake Christians, from the fake prophets, these people that are so desperate for whatever it is, they have never been successful in trying to stop us from doing what we do. Never. We have continued to do so, not only do so, but on a scale that most people would never even imagine that you could do with just yourself. My wife and I were just talking before, and believe it or not, my wife is you guys may not know this, but my wife is a very big part of everything we do. Just because she's not on camera here to make a mistake about it, my wife is very involved in everything we do. That's why they go after her too. Very involved. She's here doing all these you see my little desk here. I'll show you, she's got her her stamp set up here, and the envelopes, and she's got all the programs set up here to send out. She sent a whole bunch today, and so she's very involved in everything that goes on. I'm just the guy that goes out and preaches and sits in front of a camera, but she's the power. Well, the Holy Ghost is the power in me, but she's the person behind me, because if I didn't have the wife that I have, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. She's a mother. You know, we have, we have 7 children. She has a baby at home here. And you guys may not remember, I mean, I haven't really told you everything, but some of you remember we had CPS come after us, I guess 5 years ago, I think. And they actually took 2 of my children from my home. I got one back in 24 hours. They got the other one back rather quickly. But they did it with the hopes of trying to stop me from going against the drag queen storage stuff. They said it. We've heard it. They admitted it. And we caught them in it. And even the governor of Tennessee stepped in, and another senator stepped in and said, he literally wrote a letter and said, what are you people out of your minds? So and my wife endured all of that, the risk of everything to fight this. So when I perceive a threat to children, and I don't know if it's because of the way I grew up, because of what happened to me as a kid, I don't know, maybe that's what it is, but we have a real passion for protecting children. And when I see something trying to stop me from doing that, I react. And I'm getting better with it, not learning how that I have to defend. So just if I start going in that direction like a tit for tat, I need you guys, every one of you. I asked Brian Cranford today, I said, listen, if you see me doing it, stop me. Because I've never had any real accountability for that before. And I'm asking, I don't want to go into that. I don't want to get sucked into that stuff. Because it will take you and distract you and it'll take your focus off your mission that you need to do. And that's what the devil wants. And I don't want to be distracted. So I need each and every one of you, if you see me going that way, if you see me going, whatever, stop me. Just say, Rich, you don't need to do it, whatever. I just need help to make sure that I understand that I don't need to fight every battle, especially my own battles. I don't need to do that. So I'm asking you guys, as my brothers and sisters in the Lord, to keep me on that accountability track, because those tit for tat things can get very distracting, and it is. And we all need to be mission focused, if you will. Okay. We did a lot of stuff over the years. And if I wasn't distracted by some of this other stuff, how much more could I have done? You see? Reuben was always the guy that I can go to and I can talk to and, brother, this is happening, or, this is happening. And, David is the other one I can go to. David's another one. David's, my son, every time he walks around with like a phone, he sees a pretend phone or something like that. My son is on the phone and goes, hi, Dave. Tracy, come play with me, Dave's wife. That's how involved Dave is with my family. I mean, Reuben, my son, he's 2 years old. He sees a picture of Reuben holding him and he goes, Reuben, hold me. When he sees a picture, Reuben holding him, Reuben, hold me. Reuben, hold me. So these are 2 brothers that have been to my home many times. They've, that are very acquainted with my family. They are my family. But I need everybody because they don't see everything I do. They're not, especially when Reuben was here. He wasn't on YouTube. Reuben never even logged into his own YouTube. Are you kidding me? I always did that, or he had, Eduardo upload videos or whatever, but he never did it himself. So he didn't see that stuff, and Adam would always tell me over the years, hey, just ignore this. Adam Bishop, he would say, just ignore it, man. You need to focus on this. This is what you're good at. This is what the God is, and Adam would do that. So, I need to make sure that I have tunnel vision when it comes to this stuff. And I want the peripheral stuff to get me sidetracked. We have serious work to do. We're in a new season. What that means, I don't know. But I need to do twice as much this year as I did last year. And that's how I see this. So I just want to share that with you guys and let you know what's kind of going to be going on here. Just send a photo of what my wife can make with that shirt. Perfect. Yeah, and then let me know how much it cost, and I'll pay you for it because, hey, banners, T-shirts. I got people messaging me saying, hey, do you have somebody new that we can go to? Let me know. You know, and that's it. So we're moving forward, you guys. I appreciate you all very much. Please keep us in prayer as we're seeking God and what to do with all of this. It's hard to find a balance because no matter what I do or what we do from here on out, there's going to be some people that get upset. They're going to think this or think that. They're not going to like every decision I make, but at the end of the day, I have to do what God leads me to do, not what so-and-so wants or what so-and-so wants. And the balance behind that too is how do you do these things going forward and still honor Ruben without making it look, you know what I mean? So that's the balance I'm at right now, is how to do those two things. So please keep us in prayer with that. And again, if you can help, you know, those guys in Canada, streetchurch.ca is Artur's website. You know, they don't have lawyers like we have here. You know, Rich, if you could take one verse tonight for a word of encouragement for everyone tuning in, what would it be and why? That's a good question. I got like 50. I got like 50 that are going through my head right now. Let me ask my wife that question because, you know, everything is nerve-wracking her too. But I would say, for me personally, I would think really, you know, the verse is about God defending us, that, you know, especially when you look at Jesus and you look at the four Gospels and you read how Jesus tells us that we are going to be hated. It's not a matter what. So, oh, you got one? What? Oh, okay. It's right in front of me too. It's right in front of me too, and I. So, Brian, this is the verse. Okay. This is the verse, and this is the box that Ruben's sister made for me with his T-shirt, which is funny because I found the video of him today wearing this T-shirt. So this is the verse that my wife said that she would say to do, endure hardness, you know, and I think for me, it's also that you're gonna be hated. It's not a question of you might. It's not a question of they're not. You know, whatever. You're going to be hated by everybody. But when you are hated, you're on the right track. So for me, I think that focusing on that, especially now that I have that right in front, you know, let me put this right in front of me, directly from me, not off to the side. Let me put this right in front of me here. There we go. There. Put that right in front of me, so every time I'm here, I see that right in front of me. And thank you for that, Brian. I appreciate that. But with that said, you guys, been 2 hours. I don't need to ramble on anymore. You just know if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, preaching gear, I don't know much about them. I just know that they're crazy expensive. I got a quote yesterday for a t-shirt, and no, not going to do that. Nope. I got a $60 for a t-shirt. That's with a $20 fee to set it up the one time. And then, so it'd be $40 for a t-shirt. No, I don't think so. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But I'll let you guys know, but I appreciate it. You guys also, you know, Brian and Adam Bishop, you know, make sure you guys are following their channels too. You know, the more of us that are out there, the more of us that are preaching, the better. So you saw Brian here's comment. Go click on it. Go to his channel. Hit subscribe to Brian's channel as well, because he's got good content too, just like Adam Bishop. And we all teach differently. We have different styles. We have different things we do, and it's good if you're learning from everybody to get a well-balanced group of men and that you're listening to, and get different perspectives on things. So go ahead over to Brian's channel. Give him a like. Give him a subscribe. Hit the bell. And same with Adam Bishop. Ruben's channel, my channel, and Dave's channel, and anybody else that's preaching truth and living holy. With that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow night in my channel. We love you. God bless you guys. Don't forget my Rumble channel is changed. It's rumble.com/c/official street preachers. Make sure you give that a follow, because when we do preaching, we go out and preach. The live streams are going to be on Rumble only. They will no longer be on YouTube. They will only be on Rumble. So if you want to see the live streams that they're preaching, you have to follow me on Rumble. Okay? With that said, God bless you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow night on my channel.
Truth is truth, lies are lies. God don't take no alibis. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Don't go walking where you don't belong. To be undecided is to be decided against the Lord who wants your heart. He heals the sick and the brokenhearted, a life forever in His love.